Welcome back to the Mina Show featuring Lenny, Monday Night Football Recap Edition. Another Harbaugh Bowl is in the books. Big Brother John wins yet again. It's turning into a little bit of a Serena Sharapova dynamic between these two with all of his wins. The score was 30-24, but Domonique, it was not that close, particularly after the first half. Here, as always, to join me to discuss the game, Domonique Foxworth of the Domonique Foxworth Show. We are also going to talk about some winners and woofs from the weekend, little preview. Bryce Young, excited. Seahawks, the Commanders. We're going to get into all of that, but we're going to start with the game. Domonique, for me, an image, a play that captures how this went down, the discrepancy between those teams, was on one of the many short yardage runs where the Ravens leaned on Derrick Henry, and he stiff-armed not one, but two Chargers defenders. I felt like on his way to converting, I felt like that captured kind of how this one went.
Yeah, I mean, all the fourth downs that they converted was pretty impressive also. Like, this game definitely could have gone differently. I think the better team won, but it was really, we've all kind of started to appreciate the Chargers defense and appreciate how much better they are than we thought they were. But then they ran into a situation where there is a team that is so versatile offensively, and their defense hasn't been great as of late, but this Ravens dilemma is a hard one to face for any team, particularly when you don't have receivers, as we've talked about on this show and my show a number of times. The thing that seems to give the Ravens the most problem is not the running attack. It's like a dynamic receiver. They don't have one. Their first-round pick dropped an important pass. But I feel like I'm jumping from side to side.
Passes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm jumping from side to side here. So I'm a little all over the place. But this was a really good matchup for the Ravens, and it was the power running attack. It's just the point that I wanted to make off the stop was the versatility, I think, that the Ravens have. And they can beat you in a bunch of different ways. They're one of the few teams that have a fullback and can just get into I formation, which they did a lot in this game and just pushed the Chargers back with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Chargers offense and sort of why they weren't able to mount a comeback for the reason you described and perhaps what they need to do in the offseason and Justin Herbert and all of it. But sticking with the Ravens side at first and the Ravens offense and particularly their rushing attack, this Chargers defense had been really good. I mean, they're top 5 in DVOA, excellent in just about every metric. All year long, they've been able to stop the run using the highest light box rate in the NFL. They play a lot of big nickel with Derwin James on the field. They focus on coverage. They play a lot of split safety, but they had not run into or been run over by a team like you could argue. I mean, they played the Cardinals, but that game kind of got out of hand a little bit. They played the Chiefs back when they had Pacheco, but the Ravens are a different animal. And I think you saw, this defense structurally, they've been so sound, but this felt just kind of like a lighter, fast defense getting run over. And to your point about the Ravens, that's the thing about them. They can beat you so many different types of ways. And this game, they figured out, pretty quickly, we're just going to run right through them. That was the case on their touchdown drive. They didn't have the ball a lot in the first quarter. Lamar missed a couple throws, 3 and outs, but then they had that drive where they basically just leaned on Derrick Henry. And then on the subsequent drive, and I want to talk to you about this, the Chargers are ahead. Let's see, the score was, I believe, 10-7. After they score, the Chargers are still ahead, 10-7, and they're on their own 16-yard line. And John Harbaugh, big bro, goes for it. And the announcers, Troy and Joe, are shocked. If he had not converted this, you did the morning shows today, right? Would this have led Get Up? The spirit of Brandon Staley overtook John Harbaugh in the Chargers Stadium.
The problem with being critical of John Harbaugh in that situation is it gets really hard when you have the credibility of a Super Bowl championship in your pocket and you have the track record of going for it on fourth down. I think where you're right, though, they would have criticized him because they did a sneak that did not involve Lamar Jackson. I think the criticism would have been less about why go for it when you're backed up,
right.
and more about
Why not
not involve your best player, or why not give the ball. It's funny the way we do these things, because it would have been like, give it to Derrick Henry or let Lamar go to the edge. What are you doing? And that probably would have changed. Well, I don't know. It definitely would have changed the game some, but I'm not sure it would have changed the outcome that much, because the Ravens really didn't seem to have much trouble moving the ball, especially against that big nickel where they would put Ricard in, and then Ricard's blocking Derwin James. And Derwin James is a great safety, but it's a mismatch because Ricard is functionally a guard coming downhill on a safety, and that's going to create holes.
Yeah, that was really the story of the game. It was a momentum changer. I know we don't, I mean,
I believe in momentum.
The game felt like it was actually really going the Chargers' way, and they lost J.K. Dobbins. Again, we'll hit that when we talk about the Chargers side of it, kind of making them a little bit more one-dimensional as well as they fell behind. But it was on that drive then. He gets Zay Flowers for a big catch and run, and then Lamar hits beautiful touchdown throw downfield to Rashad Bateman, who I had just slandered in our text right before that play because he had a drop earlier. It wasn't a great Lamar game. He still had a few really special plays through the air. The throw rolling to his right, escaping pressure and finding Zay Flowers jumps out in my mind. The laser to Mark Andrews that was inexplicably now ruled a touchdown when every human on earth could see that was a touchdown. That was very weird. But I think this is what makes this Ravens offense so dangerous right now, is that even if Lamar is, and he wasn't bad, but even if he isn't having, a light up the stat sheet kind of game, the run game is so good that if you're playing a defense like the Chargers, where that is your mismatch, you can lean on that. And that was certainly the case.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about as you mentioned, I've done the morning shows. It's the tough thing about having these conversations about the Ravens is the Ravens are really versatile because of their quarterback and because of Ricard and because of Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. Like, they're a versatile team. It all stems from Lamar. And so the question that we end up arguing a bunch is about, should they be a power run the ball team first, or should they play to the advantages that they have? And of course, if you can run the ball, then by all means. But if you have an advantage elsewhere, then you have to exploit that advantage. And in this case, it just so happened that their advantage was also the power running attack. So my buddy Jeff Saturday and everyone else who's running the ball mob, which I appreciate, were satisfied and pointed to this game as an example of, like, see if they do this every week. And I'm like,
the Chargers are not the Steelers. I hate that so much.
Yeah.
You play the team in front of you, and the team in front of them was vulnerable to the run. And by the way, also, they still had some offensive penalties, but a big story with the Steelers game was they couldn't run the damn ball because they were in, like, 1st and 20 half the time. They had 7 offensive penalties. Situation matters in games. Sorry, this is weird. Yeah. Anyways, this is, look, when I look ahead to the playoffs,
fired up.
There will be teams that Baltimore can run. They might play the Chargers again. We're going to talk about the Chargers in a second. There are absolutely going to be teams where they can lean on the run game the way they did now. Ideally, there are teams where they're able to use the run game and the pass game together. I think this offense is at its best when the play-action passing attack is really clicking. But what matters is, in this game, with this matchup, they were able to lean on it, as they so often have been for years.
And that's the thing. It's we all, I think, have some, like, proclivity towards, or not proclivity, a bias towards our, like, preconceived notions. But I think that playing to your advantage is wise. And when teams play to their advantage and it doesn't work, they open themselves up to these criticisms. But I don't know. I guess I'm not saying anything brand new or different, but I think that's the stressful part. And I try to remind myself to be consistent, because if they go into a game, if they decided to run the ball the entire game, this game, and end up losing, I would have used this as an example of, like, see, this is not always the answer why you have to run the ball all the time, but that is where their advantage is. But it just feels like I guess I'm just trying to be honest about my own particular biases because I want to be right. And I want to be able to prove that it matters, the situation matters, and the opponent matters. And you're in the NFL. So it's not like you you're so good at any one thing that no one can stop you from doing that one thing.
I think football discourse generally is more likely to punish teams for not running the ball, especially if that's what they're known for, but honestly, generally, than they are for similar to like Jim Harbaugh, pardon me, punted on 4th and 18 down several scores in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left. I was watching that thing and like, really? But no one's talking about it today because you're not going to get yelled at for punting there, even though it was honestly a little bit dubious, in my opinion, then they go on to lose the game. Really quickly on the Ravens defense before we move on here. So they were helped, I think. So they didn't have Roquan Smith, and early in the game, the Chargers were actually running the ball a lot better than they have so far this season. And I thought you did feel Roquan's absence. But then J.K. Dobbins, pretty big injury because it made the Chargers, as well as the score, single-dimensional. And from that point on, I thought the Ravens defense played pretty well, Domonique. They didn't get a ton of pressure on the outside. It was in the interior they got some pressure, which has been the case all year. For the most part, I thought the corners, who have been the biggest weakness on this team, played decently well. Nate Wiggins, the rookie corner, I thought he was good. A smaller guy, but he had some physical moments back there. Do you feel like watching this defense, they've turned a corner in pass defense, or do you feel like this was just a very, like a limited Chargers offense that doesn't have enough talent at the skill position?
It's interesting. So I haven't got a chance to do like a real breakdown of this because like you mentioned, we're doing the morning shows and it was a late game. But a lot of their issue earlier in the season was blown coverages. We didn't see those issues in this game. That doesn't mean that they didn't happen. Could have been that Herbert didn't find them. And it's hard to do an analysis. Like the result for the secondary was good, but it's harder to do an analysis on the secondary without being able to see the whole secondary view. I will say that they did make plays back there. There were still the penalties, pass interference and stuff, but it's hard in modern football to do away with all of that altogether. Like there are going to be some of those issues in the course of the game, especially if you're trying to make plays and you're aggressive. So I will say that all that is good because the result was good. However, they haven't been challenged with a receiver, and we've been talking about this for a while. They're going to see A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I was just about to say, look at the schedule because here comes.
That's the test.
The big bad.
That's the test.
He is amazing this year. Yeah. Okay, well, that brings us, I agree. I do think the changes they've made in the back end seem to be helping because, like, to your point, you're not seeing guys like having Kyle Hamilton and back there, I think, is helping in particular. But, we'll see. It's going to be tested. We're going to spend a lot of time breaking down that game in the preview. So on the Chargers side, look, I thought this was a game where we talked about the defense. I still think this is a very good defense. I just think structurally, the Ravens offense is awesome and they run over everyone. And I think it was just like a matchup issue for them, not having a fully healthy pass rush, obviously. And Lamar's like impossible to sack. So that is what it is. Offensively, I think you really saw, okay, this unit has work to do. I felt bad for Quentin Johnson. I'll just say that, I didn't like the pick. I talked about him coming out of college. It sucks because he's like good at literally everything but catching the ball, it seems. And he plays wide receiver. But it's very obvious that they need somebody to pair with Ladd McConkey. I mean, even Josh Palmer, he's like a great 3, I think. And Herbert was, he wasn't perfect in this game. He was, I had the main broadcast on, and you can tell, like, when quarterbacks call Justin Herbert games, some of the throws that are dropped and missed, it like pains them physically because they're just so ridiculous. And you really felt that with Troy Aikman in this one, but they were just outgunned, especially when they couldn't run the ball.
It's the awesome assist in basketball, or the great you cross somebody over to their knees and don't hit the shot, which means this great highlight is going to be lost forever, or there's a penalty, a holding call that brings back some incredible plays. So now we have to pretend like this amazing thing didn't happen. So yeah, I think we made this similar point about the Amari Cooper trade and how they have pieces, and Amari Cooper being traded to the Bills. They have pieces that are good, but they're miscast. And sometimes everyone needs to be bumped down a notch. And right now, Ladd McConkey is probably their best receiver. And he probably needs to be their second best receiver.
Yeah.
And
he's really good, but
yeah, he's really good, but like he's not an X. And
now let me paint a picture for you. Chargers have a ton of cap space, 7th most cap space in the NFL last year. T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey.
I mean, T. Higgins is a great deep ball, like tracking the ball, big body guy, win contested catches. T. Higgins would be fun. The problem, or the thing is with a quarterback like Herbert, is everybody sounds good with him.
Yeah, right.
You know, so like, yeah, you could have named anybody that's a good receiver, and I'm like, yeah.
I mean,
I like that.
The idea of Quentin Johnston is exactly what they need. It's what you described. The problem is that idea hasn't translated into success. Stat that I think really captures what happened with the Chargers. The Ravens actually played a lot of man coverage in this one, over 50% of the time. Herbert went 7 for 19 for 82 yards with a 51 passer rating versus man. He was 14 for 17 against zone. I think about that crosser that Johnston dropped where he could have just pulled away. Like, that's the perfect call, the perfect throw, the perfect situation against man coverage, and he drops it, and it should have been a huge chunk play. And that, to me, captured what we were seeing.
Can I ask you a question about like the Chargers rushing attack? It's like I listen to you obviously, and you're very smart when it comes to football, but it feels like you undersell the Chargers rushing attack relative to their success. And am I missing something? Because I think that this, and maybe it's just me falling into the trap of like the image that I have of Jim Harbaugh. I was gonna say Jim Harbaugh, but like
and
they
Greg
are,
Roman,
they are effective at running the ball, and like, and it does seem like that's their preference.
So they actually were early in this game, but prior to this game, Domonique, they haven't been very effective. They've popped off a few explosives, and I think that is what stands out. The down-to-down consistency has been bad. Yeah,
it's a low success rate, but like it'll skew the EPA and stuff because they've had some big plays that were important in that moment. Okay.
How much do you think it hurt Greg Roman watching his old team not just beat him, but beat him by running the damn ball? It's like being hurt by the thing you love the most.
I expected, and that's probably my fault for thinking that Lamar was this petty, but I expected Lamar to want to, because like we heard all the reports coming out of there, it's like Lamar wanted to modernize the offense and Greg Roman was standing in the way. So I expected him to come out here and want to like show off, but nah, we're just getting eye formation and running right at you, which is impressive.
One more question for you before we take a break and move on from this game. I put this on Blue Sky. At your former DB, would you rather be a defensive tackle trying to tackle Lamar Jackson in the open field or a cornerback trying to take down Derrick Henry?
100% cornerback Derrick Henry.
Really?
It's an easy
Wait, why
question.
is that? Wait, okay, because I thought worst case with the defensive tackle is you have some kind of comical fall. You're a corner. I mean, you are on the receiving end. You can get trucked.
That's the thing is like, I never got trucked, and I went up against some really big running backs, and like, I mean, Steven Jackson comes to mind, and Adrian Peterson, like big, strong guys that will run people over. It's not that hard to avoid getting run over. It's not, and maybe it's just like I happen to be good at these particular things. Run really fast and aim for their kneecaps. Like it's not that hard. And if you're going fast enough, they can't hurdle you, or they might hurdle you. The stiff arm is not too hard. Like I don't want to make it sound like it's just like not easy at all. I'd be more concerned about the highlight that Lamar Jackson was going to make on me than getting run over.
Have you
Like swat down a stiff arm, it's cool.
The Henry stiff arm photos are some of the most iconic images of our generation. Josh Norman.
I get it. See, so the problem with Josh Norman, so I think this is a lot of those stiff arm photos are because Josh Norman was trying to make a play. Like Josh Norman is trying to swat the ball.
Okay.
Some of these guys are trying to swat the ball.
They weren't trying to make a play last night. They were just trying to be speed
But
bumps.
there was no embarrassing stiff arm. There was no.
Right.
But go ahead and get stuck with Lamar Jackson in open field.
So you're saying it's easier to avoid embarrassment if you just don't try to make a play. I'm not so sure that's true, and I would like to see. I would have liked to see young Domonique Foxworth take on Derrick Henry.
No problem. Like, I'm not arguing that I would destroy Derrick Henry by any stretch, but this is probably more about me as a player than anybody cares about, but I never had a problem with big receivers, fine. I was more concerned about shifty, change direction, like small guys who could, that's more of a problem for me.
I posted a video of this. Devin Witherspoon on the.
I saw that video that you posted. It was incredible.
At the end, when he hits James Conner with the two, and when you watch it, he really doesn't block James Conner. He just makes himself into a human, like a road ball. It works, and then he gets up and then immediately hits him with the too small. What a player he is.
Yeah, the mentality is there, where it is just like when the play starts to when the play ends, he is looking for something. He's looking for trouble. He's looking for trouble. He's not thinking, he's just looking for trouble. I like it.
Oh, he's like my favorite player in the NFL right now. Okay, we're going to talk about the Seahawks, actually. Let's take a quick break, come back, and get to some of our winners for the week.
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire.
All right, we are back. Before we get to the Seahawks, I loved your winner because it took me a second to get to this game. What a treat. What a treat. Oh, okay, Domonique, who is your winner?
Bryce Young is my winner for this week, and it's for a very specific reason. It's not just, they lost to the Chiefs by 3 points, and Mahomes led a game-winning drive, but it's Bryce Young being incredibly effective against the Chiefs blitz.
Yes.
And it was so impressive. It was like a combination of coaching and execution. He got sacked. Well, he only got sacked once. They called one of them a sack, but it was like him trying to run the ball in the red zone. But he just seemed to be comfortable and anticipated everything that the Chiefs were doing. He was well coached and well prepared, and it bodes well for them in the future. Like, the thing that was jumped out to me was this was the way the Chiefs wanted to play.
Yeah.
It's like it was, we're going to stop the run. Yes. We're going to force you into passing situations and then blitz the out of you, and it's going to frazzle your quarterback. Nope. It was what they wanted him to do, and they frankly played better than the Chiefs and deserved to win that game, but they didn't.
11 for 14 for 125 yards and a touchdown against the blitz in this game. I saw the score. I didn't watch it in real time, and I thought, I'm sure like some weird fluky stuff happened and like special teams miscues. Bryce Young balled out. Some of the throws, you talk about the anticipation he was making against the Chiefs blitz were some of the most impressive throws I've seen against the Chiefs defense all year. The one that really jumps out to me was at the end of the third quarter. They send an all-out pressure, and he throws an out to David Moore. Oh, my God. That was a dime. Yeah. The Panthers put up the highest EPA per play against the Chiefs defense of any offense this entire season. I loved this performance from Bryce Young. I think you make a really good point about how prepared the coaching staff clearly had for him. I think that speaks very well to Dave Canales and his future there. And I got to say, Domonique, this to me is the best possible outcome for the Carolina Panthers, because going into next season, I'm not ready to say Bryce Young he's back, he's the guy, he's the future. But I would much rather roll into next season and say, let's see another year from Bryce and continue building out. I mean, the defense is horrible, so let's continue building out the defense than trying to panic address the quarterback position. If you're a Panthers fan, you have to be very happy with how this thing is trending right now.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I don't believe in panic addressing the quarterback situation ever. Just as a matter of philosophy, you're probably tired of hearing this from me, but the situation matters more than the player.
Yeah.
And the type of special player that you're looking for is so rare. Like a player that is so good that you bring him into a shitty situation and then the situation gets so much better. Like they are so rare that's not a strategy. A strategy to me is more, and I got into this a bunch because we talked about the Giants today, and it's like, it's about culture and it's about organizational stability and those type of things. Like, I think you're much better off. And the Steelers are the example that I use on the other side, where you can knock the Steelers for never having fully, properly addressed the quarterback position. But I don't know at what point you make that decision. You're better off. And like they found Ben Roethlisberger later in the draft. And like so many of the best quarterbacks, I guess what I'm trying to argue is, I don't know, every 10 years we'll say there's a guy who's so good that you got to get him. Other than that, unless you time it up just right, other than that, the difference in successful quarterbacks in NFL and failing quarterbacks in NFL, I think is about where they end up more than anything else. So I say all that to say, start fixing this. If Bryce ain't the answer, you find out by fixing it around him and then bring somebody else in and keep doing that until it works.
I think they've started that. That's the other thing. I was watching this offense and I was thinking, damn, the line is good. Like they're pretty good. The skill players, they still need, I mean, they should call T. Higgins too, honestly. Everybody should call T. Higgins. But like, there's something there. Hubbard is a really good back. There's something there. Sanders, the tight end. Oh my God, the throw to Jamie Sanders that he made. God. Anyways, they've started to build, I think, their core. Defense is bereft, but there's something there. So I think this is the first time in a very long time that Panthers fans should feel something resembling hope. And I don't
know. This is unrelated, but I don't know that I know anybody who loves football as much as you. Like you and like I feel like if I showed you and Jeff Saturday football plays, you would make the same sounds. And it's like, it's great because I think I'm a little bit more cynical. And sometimes I lose it, but then I talk to you and I'm like, yeah, that throw was like, incredible.
Everything this kid's been through, all of it. Like, I just feel, I think like everyone's rooting for him. And I don't know. It was pretty freaking cool. I really wanted it to win. I'm sorry, Chiefs fans. It would have been amazing, but it doesn't matter that you didn't.
You root for David Tepper too.
I'm not. Yeah, separate the art from the artist. All right. There's no what's the word? Conscious capitalism when it comes down to it. There's no one that we're like, Okay. Speaking of players who made me go, huh? Leo Williams. And Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But the entire Seahawks defense, I want to take a moment. They're my winner for the week, and I want to take a moment to appreciate what feels like a legitimate turnaround. This is why you brought in Mike McDonald, because you've been getting your kicked by divisional opponents for years now. This 3-game stretch, I know they lost to the Rams, but in the Rams game, and they traded for Ernest Jones, who we can talk about in a second, it felt like, they're not losing this because of their defense, finally. Then you beat the Niners, and then you shut down a Cardinals offense that had been rolling. So this is not weak competition. Domonique, do you feel like this is a legitimate turnaround? What are you seeing when you watch this Seahawks defense? Are you a believer?
Yes, I'm a believer. And this aligns, and again, it goes to like conversations about preconceived notions that like it's going according to plan. Yeah. So it makes me really believe it. It's like following a similar blueprint that happened in Baltimore.
Totally.
And and it's following the blueprint that I said it's going to happen here also.
Traded for the linebacker.
Yeah, like it's the same exact thing. And so like it's hard for me to find a hole in saying that this is real if it's following the blueprint. Like if it did some other direction or we got there some other way, if it was up and down, like the fact that it was trash, then got good, it was like, yeah, that's what a Mike McDonald defense does, guys. It takes a while for them to get comfortable, I guess, even though like all the articles about his defense is about its simplicity. I guess it's simplicity and communication, but maybe it's the right players, their versatility and all that stuff, getting comfortable with doing a number of different things. But yeah, I want to guard against just being so gung-ho about it. But like, yeah, it seems in this team, like they are turning into the team you don't want to play. They're like shaping themselves up to be like a sneaky, frisky playoff team that could knock off a big dog because their defense is playing well and their quarterback is trustworthy and clutch.
The quarterback's like amazing outside of one horrible interception every game. But we don't have to talk about the offense. The offense does have problems, but this is about the defense. We're being positive at the moment. There's so much to get into. I think the Cardinals game, what really jumped out, first of all, they were super stout against the run, and that it feels like that a lot of that has to do with the changes in the linebacker position, but it also feels like guys just are finally understanding their responsibilities. They figured out structurally what they want to do. But pressure. I mean, Kyler Murray, before this game, had been the best quarterback in the NFL under pressure. He'd been unreal. In this game, the Seahawks pressured him on 43% of dropbacks, which is a lot. And he went 4 for 13 for 81 yards and an interception, the aforementioned Bryant pick. Watching it, Domonique, they didn't blitz that much. It was a combination of simulated pressures that were incredibly effective. They were able to get unblocked guys. They've been doing this now for weeks in a manner very similar to the Ravens last year. And just dominant performances from some of these defensive linemen, led, of course, by Leo Williams, who's been great. He was good last year. He was good. He's been good all this year. This, to me, was one of the single most dominant performances from a defensive lineman that I have seen all year. The play where it was a simulated pressure. They had Jones walked up. Jones, who's like a threat to a really good pass rusher, so he's a really great weapon, similar to Roquan, honestly. So he comes up to line of scrimmage. He's over the center, drops into coverage. Centers. So Leo gets a one-on-one with the guard. He bull rushes him into hell. Sorry. And Kyler escapes. That to me was like emblematic of the game. Just the combination of simulated pressure, putting your guys in position to succeed, and then a really special player in Leo Williams rising to the occasion.
As you were talking, I was just watching some more of their pass rush successes, and I managed to not make any noises because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to. And it's the simplicity of what they're asking their guys to do and how it presents so many problems for a defense, for an offense, and specifically offensive line, is if everyone is a legitimate pass rusher and you have everyone in position, you have to put someone, in order to protect guys, the weak spot on your line, you're going to have to put people in complete isolation. And the best part is when they give you a look that looks like the last time they did a particular pass rush. And then you slide your line or put a protection in a way that you are double teaming a guy, or you have help for a guy who's a pass rusher. Then he drops out and they bring the pressure from the other side, and they're only sending 4 or maybe 5, but they got a free damn runner. And the reason why that matters is you end up having coverage while also having a blitz. And we've talked about this with Sims in the past, but like that's the beauty of it. And then it's the Vikings. And then also being comfortable with sometimes, and this is why the secondary matters, is they're also comfortable with sending everybody.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like, hey, you guys are showing us this so that we can guess wrong.
Yeah.
And if we guess right, we're good. If we guess wrong, we're dead. So 50-50, that's fine. But sometimes we're going to send them all, in which case you're dead. And it's just like, I think the best way I can put it is it allows you to be the aggressor or the dictator, the aggressor.
Yes. The whole time it felt like they were dictating And the Cardinals' offensive
Right.
line had so much trouble sorting out responsibility.
Right.
I mean, the first sack, the Mafe sack, Derek Hall, who's opposite him, drops into coverage. You got three guys. The entire right side of the Cardinals' line is blocking Jerod Reed.
Okay, cool.
So, anyways, all right. Seahawks defense, very exciting, very thrilling for me to watch, obviously. Commanders, this is your Woof. Sorry, I spoiled it. I do think we should get to this because I haven't talked about them in a minute. And, it's one thing when they were they're struggling against losing to the likes of the Eagles and the Steelers, the Cowboys. I assume this is mostly about the Commanders' offense. Domonique, what do you? Because we were all very high on this early in the season. Do you feel like this is the famous Cliff Wall? Do you think it's Jaden Daniels being a rookie? Do you think it's a lack of talent, or do you think it's a little bit of all three, which is what I think?
And Jaden Daniels' kind of injury issue also. I mean, I think you and I we talk so often between both of our shows and just our texts. I'm not sure which show or when we talked about this, but I know for certain that I've told you early in the season that this is Jaden Daniels. Like this Cliff resurgence is not, I guess you can give Cliff some credit because of the simplicity, but the success that they were having early in the season was a function of Jaden Daniels being awesome and them having some nice running attack to take pressure off of him. But it wasn't him scheming up easy solutions. It was Jaden Daniels understanding protections. Jaden Daniels being quite possibly the best deep ball, the most accurate deep ball thrower in the league at times. And he still was accurate deep balls even when he's not completing them. And so what happened in the later part of the season is you get into, and this is a theory that I've been bouncing around a little bit with some of the producers on my show that I've been considering doing a more deep dive into it. But this part of the season is a part of the season where you are very much defined in what you're good at and what you want to do. And then there's a need for another move. You need some other evolution on what you are capable of doing. And it doesn't seem that they have that. And when the running game is gone, it really hurts them. And when Jaden's hobbled, it really hurts them. But I'm waiting for them to be like, all right, once you guys guard this, we're going to do that. And I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same core concepts over and over. And the Cowboys were all over them, man. For all the we've given that defense, they knew what was coming, both in the run game, the passing game in particular. I mean, those screens just are not working anymore, by the way. And you remember early in the season, everybody was like, wow, Cliff's screen game is so beautiful. It did not look good in this one. I think there's a lot going on here. Some of it is the scheme. I think this was never a very talented offense, right? You have Terry McLaurin, and behind him, it's pretty weak. The offensive line is better than we expected, but still not great. And I think that's partially being exposed as well. If you're not winning with scheme, you need the players to win. And McLaurin also, this is a Cliff thing, is not being optimized. They need to start using him in different ways because he is their only guy. This game was an insane one to watch because I saw the score at the end. I saw the end. And then I went back and watched it, and it was 10-9 with 10 minutes left. And I was like, what is going to happen in this game? And then the final kind of few minutes skewed everything, and it was absolute chaos. My overarching takeaway was it was pretty shocking how easily the Cowboys, who are the worst run defense in the NFL, defended the run. And because they were able to defend the run and dominate at the line of scrimmage, then they got to have some fun and get after him on third down. I mean, they just blitzed they blitzed him like crazy. Micah Parsons went nuclear in this game. Overshown was in the backfield constantly. Most teams have been able to keep the Cowboys out of those situations, and the Commanders were not.
Yeah, Commanders' defense is, so you said a bunch of things that are interesting. So the funny thing about the Cowboys' defense being all over these concepts is that's what happens to the Cowboys' offense. In the playoffs and late in the season, it's y'all running the same and we all know it's coming. And so they have some practice, I guess, in doing that. You're right about the bad game script situations where you're behind the sticks. It's really hard for anybody, particularly a young quarterback, in this situation. And they were they weren't getting any help, and their talent, I think, or their success early in the season might have convinced some people that they're better than what they actually are. But I think this game is actually like closer to what their talent suggests. But they can do a little bit better, and the coach isn't helping them, so it's an uphill battle.
They're still 7 seed. They're still in great position because of their earlier wins to make it into the playoffs. I think, though, we're seeing, this is still a work in progress. I think the biggest question they're going to be facing is not what to do from a talent perspective, and I still think the quarterback has great potential, but whether or not Cliff Kingsbury can turn things around. That is what I am watching with the greatest scrutiny through the end of the season. Can he find answers in the passing attack? Because it really reminded me of the beginning of the year where it was just like, oh my God, it's like barely pushing the ball downfield and screens, and it's just all right.
I wonder. The last thing I'll say is Bill Barnwell and I discussed this because he's a defender of the Cliff. And that we're not. He doesn't believe it to be all that true, and that we're making more of it than may actually be there. And so he kind of asked me on my show, how do I explain it? I guess if it's like more than just a coincidence. And the best argument I came up with is there can be a lot of time put into designing an offense when you're headed into a season. When people have answers, there's not as much time. And when you have injuries and your roster's changing, the challenges across from you are changing, there's not as much time to put. So he obviously understands offense, but you're asking for a different skill than design a cohesive offense. You're asking for evolve your offense based on the problems that you're going to be facing.
It's not too dissimilar from Chip Kelly, to be honest. And I know it's a little bit easy to lump them together, and there's some pretty pronounced differences between their schemes, but I think you're seeing similar issues crop up where defenses start to get on, and if you don't have enough talent to win with that stuff, this is what happens. So we'll see. I mean, this is TBD. Okay. Your woof, I think, is interesting because it kind of leads to a question about sort of coaches and hot seats. Jerod Mayo, Patriots lose 34-15. A lot of, I wouldn't say buzz around Fire Mayo, but Pats fans are pretty mad at him. Why did you pick him in particular? Because a lot of the first-time coaches have been losing.
Yeah, I think people seized on the quote about that he said, once the guys cross the white line, there's nothing I can do for them when, you can't. I think what he meant was probably misconstrued, and he is in a position now where people are going to pile on. But that score is, it's an unacceptable score. You have NFL players, you should not be getting blown out like that. And I think when you have a quarterback that's proven he has some talent, people get real anxious about how you build around him. I think the up and down nature of this team, and they're not as bad as on defense as as they're showing, is the concerning part. And the fact and it kind of feels like and it's tied in with the quote, is he's throwing his hands up this is the best I can do with these guys, which it's clearly not. And that's the concerning part.
Yeah, the defense is what concerns me. The offense, I think you can really. So watching this game, the offensive line just is a non-tenable situation that they have to address, and obviously they need talent there too. But defensively, this defense has fallen from 9th in DVOA last year to 30th. Now you lose Matthew Judon, Christian Barmore just came back. Juwan Bentley was a sneaky big loss. Jabril Peppers was just reinstated. He has a domestic violence allegation looming. Sure. But there's still talent on that side of the ball. They should look better than they have. He is a defensive coach. So I think that's probably where he gets the most deserved scrutiny. There's some game management stuff as well. But I'll be interested. I don't know if the Patriots, especially obviously since he's the first post-Belichick and it's just 1 year, if they'd want to move on right away, I think they'd probably give him a new chance with a new offense, some improvements there. But the first year coaches, I just pulled this up. So the Quinn, Mike McDonald, Jim Harbaugh all have winning records right now, and Raheem Morris, pardon me. All of those were teams we thought would be decent to good, right? Except for Dan Quinn, but we'll see. We just talked about that. But like, I'm just looking at this. So Mayo's 3-9, Canales is 3-8, Callahan in Tennessee is 3-8. I mean, those are all teams we thought would be bad. So I don't know if,
I didn't say this, and I should go back to what I saw in watching this game was also not consistent with the quote that he gave. Is it felt like they knew what the Patriots, like the Dolphins, the plays that they made were scheme plays.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess you can't go out there and play for them, but like you can put them in better position or you can adjust. It's like they just kept putting their guys in tough spots, and they were scheming to beat them in these man coverage situations. And that's what jumped out to me is like, actually, like, I know you said it right after the game, so maybe you don't know necessarily, but your kind of job is kind of supposed to know that. And there was at no point that I feel like they had a grip on. It wasn't like, we know how to stop it, our players are falling short. At no point did it feel like the defensive staff of the Patriots knew what the Dolphins were trying to do to them.
It looked way worse than the score. They had some garbage time production, but like and this is a Dolphins offense that has been good with Tua back, but has not had it easy like the way it looked against this defense. So I mean, just to kind of go back to the hot seat, the jobs right now that I'm looking at, Jets and Saints are obviously open. Peterson is basically pre-fired. I think the next tier, you've got Dable, McCarthy, and Eberflus are the ones, and Pierce is with the Raiders. I'd say outside shot, Stefanski and Taylor, but I know that sounds, but I don't think either of them will. I'm just saying that's what you're seeing. So we could see 5 or 6 jobs open up, but those first year coaches are the ones that I think the decision is harder because.
I mean, you got. I don't know. I don't know what's happening in the building, but first year, first job, like that seems hasty unless it's something terrible happening to move on so quickly.
Which of the jobs that I just said were Jets, Saints, Jags, Giants, Cowboys, Bears is the most attractive. Bears is an attractive job. That's it.
I think
Ben Johnson goes straight to Chicago, man. That's a sick job, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to throw the Bengals in there again.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get fired.
Right. But I think that Bears situation looks really good.
Caleb Williams, I thought, to wrap here, was awesome. Again, I watched that game really closely with great curiosity because I thought he was really good the previous week. Wanted to see how he played against a really good defense. Awesome performance from Caleb Williams. So
if this is what we saw, it's funny how the things work out because this is what we saw week 1 for Caleb Williams. Everyone would feel totally different about him.
It's a long
even if he went on to
season,
be bad, but
I know.
if that was our first impression, it'd be different.
Totally.
Those throws were stupid.
And it was
a lot of noises made when I was watching that.
Perfect mix of stupid good throws.
Yeah.
In structure, getting the ball out quickly, and then making plays with his legs. The 4th down scramble, felt things watching that. When he bunny hopped over, I can't remember who the defender was who was down, but that was
all the angles of those tight window throws, like seeing them from multiple angles, the jump pass out of bounds to Swift. It's like,
how many humans can make that throw? 5? 4?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, that's it for this week. Domonique Foxworth, check out his podcast, The Domonique Foxworth Show. I will be joining later in the week on Friday is our episode. In the meantime, I will be back. We are doing a preview pod this week with Ben Solek that will drop, I guess, on Thursday morning on Thanksgiving. So if you want to avoid your relatives, you can listen to that. Otherwise, Domonique, I'll see you later in the week. I don't know what our schedule is. All right, well, we'll figure it out. Bye.
Bye.